because of all of the other obstacles that are going on in their day-to-day life, right? One of the most common ones during this time of year is traveling. Traveling is a big perceived roadblock for most people as they go through their fat loss phase. It's really easy, especially with holidays being the reason for traveling, for people to let loose, completely throw everything aside, put everything on pause, and take 20 steps backwards in most cases toward their fat loss goals, toward their health goals, toward their physique goals. And there's a lot of things to talk about with that. And we're going to go through simple strategies for that as well. But first and foremost, before even going through the actual applicable strategies, it's really important to recognize and discern the social norms, the scripts, and the fake boundaries that we kind of set up for ourselves in these situations mentally that are keeping us from actually progressing the way we want to. And one of those is, if you're traveling, if you're busy, if you want to celebrate the holidays, that means you can't be healthy, you can't lose fat, you can't start a journey like this or work with a coach, for instance, right? That's a very common false dichotomy that people seem to have, right? They think that because holidays are a certain way and that fat loss or losing weight or being healthy is a certain way, they've have these fixed perspectives of what those two things look like, and they seem so opposite and far apart from each other that you can't do both at the same time. You have to do one or the other. And that's just not true, right? Fat loss and weight loss and dieting and being healthy isn't about being super restrictive. It's not about not enjoying yourself. It's not about trying to exclude and eliminate and lose all the fun from the holidays. It's way bigger than that, and you can do both at the same time. And the idea that you think you can't do both at the same time is incredibly harmful for your short-term enjoyment and for your long-term sustainability with this too. Because if you think you can never do this, anytime a holiday comes up, or if you think you can never do both at the same time, anytime a holiday comes up, anytime an event comes up, you're going to be freaking out, feeling guilty for celebrating, feeling terrible about yourself, feeling like you're sabotaging. And in most cases, because it's such an extreme difference, doing worse than if you had allowed yourself some grace and enjoyed yourself in that way. So there's a lot of different things to uncover here and a lot of different scripts to uncover here, but that is a really deep podcast that we get into in another time. Right now, I want to put that point out there for you guys to think about it a little bit, recognize those thought patterns and behavior patterns that you have in your own mind, and see if there's some perspective shift that you can implement with yourself before even going through with the strategy practices that we're going to be talking about. But getting into the actual strategies for fat loss while traveling, there are certain principles that need to apply. When I work with clients that are traveling at this time of year, or really any time of year, if you're going to be traveling, and it is for a celebratory reason, it is for a vacation, it is to go see family and catch up again with old friends, that kind of thing. The main priority here is making those memories with your friends, making those memories with your family, being on the vacation and enjoying yourself. That is the main priority. Now, again, just because that's the main priority doesn't mean you can't also be healthy and enjoy yourself. Be healthy, follow a fat loss program, and lose weight at the same time. It doesn't mean you can't do both at the same time, but recognizing that that's the priority, and if you need to sacrifice the other one just a little bit, or you can't do it to its fullest potential, that's okay, because it's not the most important thing for this period of time. There's going to be another day, there's going to be another week where you can get back on track, do your dieting, go back to your routine, that kind of stuff. This is the week, this is the day where you're focusing on this event, right? This coming week is going to be Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is a time to join together with your family, play some football with some old friends you haven't seen in a long time, catch up with people in your town if you moved, all of those kind of things. That is what the theme of this holiday is all about. And if you spend all of your mental energy freaking out about nutrition, you can't fully be present to enjoy those moments, and you miss out on great memories that you would have otherwise had if you didn't allow yourself that. So recognizing your priorities first and foremost as you go into this is going to be really important, because that'll give you the best gauge to know what to sacrifice and what to keep as you go through this. But going through with traveling, one of the first things I always suggest with clients though, as they travel, as they go on vacation, as they do whatever they're doing, is starting off by going to the grocery store first and foremost. That is going to, after you leave the airport, you go to the grocery store, then you go to your Airbnb, then you go to your hotel, wherever you're going, or you go to the grocery store first, and you stock up on high protein, high nutrient dense snacks. And the reason for that is because if you're traveling, I always encourage trying out the food of where you're traveling, right? If you're going to be traveling for Thanksgiving, for instance, you're going to be going home, having your mom's home cooked meal, you're going to want to enjoy that, right? In a lot of instances, you will find yourself overindulging in these situations, but you can manage that. You could find yourself overindulging, and you could find yourself under nutrienting, making up words here, under nutrienting, having less nutrients than you need to be successful while you do this. Again, this applies to both situations, whether you're coming home, having your mom's home cooked meals, or going on vacation and trying out food specific to that area, right? That's one of the beauties of travel, is seeing other cultures' foods and what they can offer. So to kind of balance that, right, you want to have a baseline or a foundation of high protein foods, things like beef jerky, Greek yogurts, cottage cheeses, chicken strips, grilled nuggets, and then other high fiber foods as well, high nutrient dense foods, right? So fruits, vegetables, salads, things like that. Having them on hand, going to the grocery store, having them on hand, and having a fair amount of them so that you can have those as your morning breakfast, your pack away lunch. You could go through the day not as hungry, and you'll feel pretty satiated, because fiber and protein, as we know, are very satiating foods. They're going to keep you full for longer periods of time. And then those are also low calorie foods, so you have a lot of flexibility to eat your favorite foods later on when you go out and try new foods, if you're vacationing in a different spot, or to have your mom's favorite dessert. If she's making something that you love and you haven't had it in a long time, you can enjoy that and have it fit with your goals at that point in time too. Now, that's one strategy, and I think it's foundational to this, because if you're not prepared, if you're not taking this major step, you're setting yourself up for failure, because a lot of things are going to be left up to chance, and you're going to put yourself in a situation where you are potentially overeating and unnecessarily eating, and not necessarily wanting to eat more foods that are higher calorie, less nutrient dense, less filling, and could be setting you back a little bit with your fat loss goals. So starting off, this is the best thing, most important step in my opinion, something I always do, something I always encourage my clients to do. And I think if you start doing it, you'll see a really big difference in how you feel coming back from your travels, right? So that's one thing. The next thing when it comes to traveling while eating is making sure you stay active to some degree, right? Traveling while fat loss. I said traveling while eating. Is making sure you stay active to some degree. So getting your steps in. You don't need to necessarily be working out while you're on vacation unless you want to, right? Some people actually want to work out while on vacation. I'm not one of those people. Usually if I'm on a vacation, I kind of want to actually stay away from the gym. Not necessarily stay away from the gym, but be active in other ways. I like hiking whenever I travel somewhere, so I'll be doing activity in that kind of way as opposed to gym activity. Some people have trained, some people I know, they enjoy gym hopping and exploring the different gyms in different areas, because that's kind of a part of the culture of that place too, is these unique mom and pop kind of gyms that have their own personality. And that's a fun experience for them. So they want to do that, right? There's never anything you have to do in these situations, but there are things that you want to do, and you should follow through and do those things you want to do. But recognizing and knowing the things you want to do is going to be the important thing. But regardless of what it is you want to do, find something active you want to do during this time period as well. You don't want to vacation and lounge the entire time. You could do that some days, you could do that some of the time, but not the entire time, right? That's not going to be helpful for you in any way. So finding a way to be active, even if it's just walking to some degree, but doing some activity is going to be really key here. And this last point, I think, is the most important one. I think I made an entire podcast episode on it. I know it's a part of a podcast episode called the 3 Fat Loss Mantras, and it's knowing that enough is as good as a feast. And this kind of goes back to what I talked about at the beginning of this episode of breaking through social norms, where we feel like, we've been ingrained growing up that to have a good time somewhere, to have a good time at an event, to have a good time while traveling, you need to eat a lot of food. You have to eat a lot of food to have a good time. If you're not eating a lot of food, you're not having a good time. You're restricting yourself and you're not enjoying things as much as you could, right? More is always better. And similarly, eating a lot of unhealthy food, right? Generically unhealthy food is how we have a good time. And these are just scripts that we've been given and repeated over and over again, but it's not how it has to be. In reality, you're going to feel worse eating more. You're going to not enjoy yourself eating more. You're going to regret it even more eating more. And you're not going to enjoy the food as much. I don't know if I said that one, but that's if I'm repeating this one or not, but that's the most important thing. If you have more of something, it doesn't mean you enjoy it more. At a certain point, there's going to be a diminishing return to how much you're enjoying it, and you're just kind of suffering through it and feeling like you should be having more just for the sake of having more. But that's where the idea of enough is as good as a feast comes in. If you can find contentment, if you can listen to your body and have a fair amount of food, having a slice of a pecan pie. I've actually been training myself to try to say pecan instead of pecan because I think it's kind of cooler to say. I feel classier saying that. So I'm going to practice that right now. So if you have a slice of pecan pie, and you taste the pecan pie, you chew it up, you enjoy it, you savor the flavor in your mouth, and you take your time eating it, that is going to be just as much enjoyable, if not more enjoyable, than inhaling an entire pie for yourself without trying to savor the flavors, right? That's where the idea of enough is as good as a feast comes in. More isn't necessarily better, but knowing how to enjoy what you have in front of you is going to be the difference between eating a manageable load and overdoing it, regretting it, not having a good time, not feeling good physically afterwards, feeling like really groggy and slow and heavy, and ruining what could have been and should have been a good eating experience. So when it comes to fat loss while traveling, those are going to be the 3 biggest things here that I always recommend to people. Go to a grocery store first and foremost, or a gas station or something, but you find these high protein, high nutrient dense foods and get a good amount of them saved up as snacks, right? And as little meals for yourself so that you are satiated more often throughout. You're getting your baseline nutrients that you need to feel good throughout this time. And you're not putting yourself in a position where you're accidentally eating more than you need to eat, or eating things you don't want to be eating but feel like you have to be eating just because you're hungry. Now, so that's number 1. Number 2 is being active to some degree, whether that's actual workouts, just walking more, whatever the case may be. Find a way to be active, and ideally with people that you want to catch up with too. You can always go on bike rides with friends. You could always go on walks with your siblings, your parents, if you haven't seen them in a long time. Walks and talks are always enjoyable, and you can make a really fun, memorable time out of it. And then the last one is recognizing and understanding that you don't need more to enjoy more. You can have what you have enough, and still enjoy it just as much. And breaking through those ideas that we talked about at the beginning, those social constructs, those fake scripts that we have ingrained in ourselves on what a good time looks like, and what health should look like, what fat loss should look like, what having a good time, having fun while traveling, having I'm just going to be redundant here, but that general idea, reframing that and seeing that it doesn't have to be what you've always thought it to be. It can be something else. And two things that seemed opposite to you can happen at the same time. You can lose weight. You can be health conscious. You can be mindful of what you're putting into your body and still enjoy what you're eating. You could still have some sweets. You could still enjoy the dinner, have a good time, and enjoy the company around you. But it starts with breaking that script and switching the narrative in your mind first and foremost. If that's an idea you want me to dive more in depth with, dive deeper on sounds better. That's an idea you want me to dive deeper on. I would love to talk about it with you. Just shoot me a DM on Instagram at stupid.fit. Stupid is with 2 O's. I'd love to start a conversation with that. But otherwise, I hope you found this helpful, and I hope you're going to be using this on your travels as you go wherever you're going to be going this week or in any time in the future. And we will see you guys on the next episode.